1989, the Kansas City Public Library founded the Lucile H. Bluford branch, here at the intersection of 31st and Prospect. But who was Lucile H. Bluford? And why was this library named after her?
Born in 1911 in South Carolina, Lucile H. Bluford grew up in Kansas City. From an early age, Bluford showed interest in journalism and civil rights advocacy. While attending Lincoln High School, she worked on the school newspaper and interned at the Kansas City Call, an African-American newspaper, and was a member of the Student Council and the NAACP. Upon graduation, she continued her journalistic work at the University of Kansas's School of Journalism. At KU, however, she was barred from Honor Society for the color of her skin, foreshadowing her future fights to extend civil rights across the color and gender barriers to all Americans. And fight she did. Through her writings, she fought racial segregation, discrimination. She fought to secure full citizen rights for women and African Americans. But most importantly, she fought for her struggling people, inspiring, encouraging, and guiding generations of future Kansas Cityans. Bluford began her journalistic career immediately after graduating from KU in 1932, soon joining the Kansas City Call. Founded in 1911, the Call was a beacon of trustworthy information for many new African Americans who came to Kansas City during the Great Migration, a period where northern industry pulled and southern Jim Crow laws pushed African Americans north. In just 1910 to 1930, the African American population of Kansas City doubled. Though they moved from South Carolina to the comparatively northern Kansas City, the Blufords still dealt with systemic racism. Missouri, a part of the Jim Crow states, enforced a separate but equal policy and starkly segregated KC. White flight and redlining exacerbated the racial tensions, with the most stark reminder being Troost Avenue, which cleaved the city into black and white. But through all this, the Kansas City Call became a rallying point in the black community. As the largest African-American paper in Missouri, the Call took positions then considered controversial, loudly supporting anti-lynching laws, advocating for greater African-American representation in court, and pressuring the defense industry to open to black Americans. But race was not the only barrier restricting Bluford. Barriers were also erected against her for her gender. Though first-wave feminism, which began with the 1848 Seneca Falls Convention and ended with the 19th Amendment, granted female suffrage in 1920, misogyny was still everywhere. Females were expected to simply become housewives. Occasional exceptions were made for teachers or nannies or other professions considered feminine. Bluford would have to overcome this double barrier. But Bluford also vocally supported women's rights across the gender barrier. She tore into a prison official who claimed that female offenders could not be rehabilitated because they lacked vocational skills. She called for the dismissal of another police officer for his disinterest in the murder of 12 African-American women. Under her, the Call became a platform for black feminists and civil rights activists to debate issues not only on race, but on women's rights too. Bluford added her unique perspective as a black woman in race and gender debates and used the Call as a formidable power base to shape and mobilize a broader movement in the struggle for civil rights. Her most famous attack on the color barrier, however, came in 1939 when Missouri still followed the separate but equal doctrine established by the 1896 Plessy v. Ferguson Supreme Court decision. In Missouri, white students attended the University of Missouri in Columbia, while black students were relegated to Lincoln University in Jefferson City. She came on the heels of Lloyd Gaines, who was recently barred from UM's School of Law for his race. With the help of the NAACP, Gaines took the case all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States, and won. With no equal law institution within Missouri borders for African Americans, the University of Missouri was forced to admit Gaines. Gaines, however, mysteriously disappeared, and in his absence, black undergraduates all over Missouri asked, "Where shall we go next?" Bluford wanted to test the waters, and applied to the University of Missouri's School of Journalism. Though she was initially admitted, the university rescinded her acceptance upon learning of her race. Silas Canada, the registrar of the University of Missouri, protested, saying, When your credits were accepted by correspondence, it was not known by the university authorities that you were of the colored race. If such a fact had been known, you would have been immediately advised that you would not be admitted. The black press exploded in anger. The Call ran a front-page headline reading, "MU rejects woman student," with 3 articles on the front page. On the other side of the state, the St. Louis Argus also protested against MU's decision, declaring that intelligence knows no color. After repeated attempts to enter, Bluford, teaming up with NAACP lawyers, sued Canada in Boone County Circuit Court. Bluford claimed that, as the historically black Lincoln University had no graduate journalism program, the University of Missouri had to admit her. The university claimed that the overqualified Bluford was an agent of the NAACP aiming to integrate the school. The division between white and black press was also apparent in how they covered the case. One writer working for the Call wrote that Miss Bluford held her ground so well with such assurance that the white students in the audience burst into laughter and loud applause, while the Columbia Daily Tribune, a white paper, declared, "Negro woman parries question, seeks to force entrance. Obstinate attitude starts applause." Bluford, however, lost her case. The court ruled that it would be the responsibility of Lincoln University to open a school of journalism. She would apply and be rejected by UM a total of 11 times. Eventually, UM closed the School of Journalism altogether in 1942. Bluford maintains that they had closed to permanently deny her admission, while the university claimed it was due to World War II. But her story does not end in defeat. "I refuse to permit my career to be thwarted by the erroneous verdict of a jury egged on by the most vicious appeal to race prejudices I have ever heard," she said. Her court case exposed the systematic racism still pervading the education sphere and laid the groundwork for future desegregation, paving the path for black students like Gus Riegel to gain admittance in 1950. Her legacy was also remembered by many Kansas Cityans when the hearings for Brown v. Board of Education of Topeka began in 1952. Bluford's attempt to integrate higher education also forced the state of Missouri to fund the Lincoln University School of Journalism, which opened the door to a new generation of black Missourian journalists. Ironically, one of Lincoln's journalism program graduates became the first black editor of UM's newspaper, the Columbia Missourian. Since then, her pioneering work has been recognized by the very university that stubbornly rejected her. She received UM's Honor Medal for Distinguished Service in Journalism in 1984 and an Honorary Doctor of Humanities in 1989. In 2017, Governor Jay Nixon designated July 1st Lucile Bluford Day in her honor.